Coach D here. I'm going to show you how to do a hip hinge clinic. Now, why is this important? Because when you're doing the hinge exercise, which typically is going to happen when you're doing a deadlift, a lot of people do not have the ability to hinge their hips on a horizontal, and what ends up happening is instead of hinging with the hips, they start flexing with the spine, putting pressures on their back, or not being able to fully go back and do the performance of the deadlift. So, a small, short way that I used to do it is through going through different portions. One, we're going to have you on the ground. Okay? What you want to do here is get a few reps in, I would say 5 to 10 reps of a basic hip thruster. We're trying to engage the glutes. We're trying to prime the body to understand that the power is coming from the hips, not from the back, not from the spine. Okay, so this is really easy. I'm going up, I'm feeling the thrust from this position. Those are the muscles I'm going to use. Next, I'm going to turn over. I'm going to try to put 2 and 2 together like Lego, okay? I'm going to grab onto this dowel and keeping my feet flat, keeping the bar close to my body. I'm going to drive down and push my hips back. Now from this position, you can see that I'm driving forward, okay? This is small movements that build one on top of the other to help you get in line for the proper hinge movement, okay? So for your deadlift, the hips go back out. I'm driving forward, the bar's close to my body. I'm not going to have it in front of me like some people do. I'm driving down and then thrusting forward, okay? Next, we can go step forward, and then from this position, hip thrust forward and back. 2, step forward, and then I'm going to drive my hips forward, hip thrust through and back. One more time. From here, driving the hips through and back. Last one, forward and hips through, okay? Now the best and most, I would say, sport-specific way to attack this exercise is then to move on to using a band. Now the thicker the band, the more resistance, so if you want to try with a small red one to begin, you can. What you want to do in this position is you notice that as I come forward, it's pulling me back, okay? So you can go with a red band if you like, or a green. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to simulate the movements of the deadlift so this can pull me back from the hinge. So I'm standing straight, and as I let my body go, it's naturally going to pull me back. This is the exact position you want to be at. So when you come up, you're not thrusting and pulling with your head. I'm driving with the pelvis forward. Now you'll notice my body's slightly on an angle because obviously I'm pulling against the band, but this is going to help reinforce the driving mechanism from the hips. So I go down, I look up, and I thrust forward. Keeping my chin up as I go down, I'm looking up, I've got a neutral spine behind me, and if I had to double check and see if I'm neutral, you can see that my head is touching on the dowel, my low back is touching on it, I'm fully arched. Now being in this position, if I want to make it harder, I can step forward a bit more. It's going to drive me back even further. And you can see that my knees are slightly bent. They're not going to be fully bent, but there's a slight bend in the knees. This way, if I'm holding a kettlebell or a barbell, as I go down, I hinge and I thrust forward. The last and easiest way to do this, if you're not really sure and you don't have a band at home, is to simply go by a pole or a wall, push your pelvis back until you can touch, okay? So this is me in full range position, I'm hinged. Now when I come forward, I'm in standing position. As I push back, I gotta look and see if I can feel me touching that wall. Now I'm gonna go forward a half an inch. Same thing to practice. Push my hips back until I can find that wall I'm touching. Notice how my spine is nice and neutral. It's arched. I'm not bent over. And then I'm thrusting forward, okay? That's your hip hinge clinic. You can perform these exercises as a small light warm-up, maybe 3 to 4 minutes before you do a deadlift to help you prime these muscles and to remind yourself to keep your back nice and arched. One little tip, if you're not able to touch your toes, ladies and gentlemen, okay, even slightly bent, you will have challenges doing the hinge position because the further out you go, the tighter these muscles are here, and the tighter these muscles are here, it's gonna round your spine. So you'll see that my back is bent. So from this position, you can also do a cat camel from a bent knee position where you round your back and you arch it. This is gonna work on increasing range of motion in your hip area so you get that tilt, and also working on the hamstrings as well. Once you put these together, you'll be able to do a Hip Hinge Clinic properly, and you'll be able to dominate any form of a deadlift. Hope you enjoyed this video.